Hi, everybody. Welcome to My Other's Keeper. And today I have with me Pamela. She is
Hello,
a
everyone.
nurse and a suppressive person,
Mhm.
and she is proud of both. Um, Thank you for joining us today, Pamela. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Kim.
Good, good. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, um, I this is always hard, but I think I'm getting better at it. Some people, especially introverts, when you ask them, "So tell me about yourself," and all of a
Oh,
sudden
I
they're
know.
like, "Do I know me?" Um,
And do you want the Reader's Condensed Digest version, or do you want,
exactly. Or you want my
you know,
ADHD? I tell you everything from day one. Yeah,
yes, love me, I
yeah,
dare
yeah,
you kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, so let's
I get
see.
all of that.
The ADHD version is I was born an entire week late and I still love sleeping in. Um,
There you go. I love it.
yeah, but yeah, I was born in Los Angeles. We only lived here briefly and then we moved to Arizona where I lived until I was about 7 or 8.
Hmm.
And then we moved back to Southern California where I've been forever. So,
Okay.
yeah, I am now 54 years old. I have to practice saying that
You
because
don't have to say it
yeah.
at all. You,
Well,
you,
you know
you
what?
can.
I don't mind because
Right.
to me, I am who I am because of the time I've spent on this planet
Very good.
in this body and
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that have happened to me while
Mm-hmm.
I've been here,
Yeah.
good and the bad.
Yeah.
So I don't mind telling people my age, and most of them don't believe me anyway.
Same here. Like I don't mind saying I am 52 years old because I make it
Hmm.
look good.
You
So
do, and I'm loving
anyway,
your hat.
so well, thank you. Yes, I buy boring hats and then put something
Uh-huh.
pretty on it and then
Oh, that's
just
smart because that is
yeah.
gorgeous. Is that a clock? Well, it almost looks like a
This?
clock to me. Yeah,
No,
no, but
it's
it's a
just a
brooch.
brooch. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I see it now. Yeah, that's pretty.
Now that we've got our fashion sense going on. Okay.
Yeah.
See, ADHD. Love it.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right. I'm just going to say hello to everybody because I cannot keep up. And just welcome to everybody. I'm so glad you're here. And I am so glad that we get to talk to Pamela today. And today we're going to talk, this is going to be the first of several parts because Pamela has had an amazing life. Like she said, she's 54 and she is who she is because of everything that's happened, as are we all. But
Oh,
she's had a little more happen than many of us. So we're going to get into that a little bit. We'll start talking about her mom, and we will discuss other aspects of her life in future discussions, in future chats. So let's get started with talking about your mama. So tell us a little bit
yeah.
about how that went with you.
Yeah. So, my mom was born and raised in Texas, and
Mhm.
I believe I've been told it was her grandmother, my great grandmother, who introduced her to benzodiazepines early when she was like a
Mhm.
teenager. Oh, you seem too nervous or anxious. Here, take this. And oh, you seem too tired. Here, let's take this. And a lot of those things were perfectly normal in the 50s and 60s and
Yes.
spilling into the 70s until they realized
Mother's
that
little
they were
helper,
doing a
right?
lot of, yeah. I don't see how Mother's Little Helper would be considered okay for mother, for granddaughter, but it
Yeah.
is what it is. It happened. It happened, I know, to a lot of celebrities.
Mhm.
Is it, I can't think of any. Uh, the Wizard of Oz. What is her name? Judy Garland.
Yes.
Yeah, I know she had that experience and a lot of other movie stars as well. And
Absolutely.
it's just how things were done then. So
Mhm.
along the way, she was SA'd
Mhm.
and became pregnant and had my half sister. She later married and married my dad, and
Mhm.
then my brother and I came along. Um, and it's a lot of my memories before his death aren't that clear.
Okay.
Some of the memories after his death aren't that clear, but I don't really
Yeah.
remember what she was like when she was with him. My aunt did tell me a story about how we were driving in Phoenix one day on this, I think we were on the 17, and heading south toward, and my aunt points and is like, I think that's the motel your dad stayed in when he had to leave the house because he couldn't be
Did that
around your
happen
mom.
often?
I don't know. That was the first
Oh.
I'd heard of it, and I was in my 30s at that time. And I'm like,
Mhm.
he what now? What?
Mhm.
And knowing, after I kind of processed that, knowing what I know about my mom and how her behavior could be, I could see him feeling, if I don't step away for a bit, I'm going to choke her.
Yes.
I can see that
Yes.
because she knows how to push buttons. She can find your button usually really quick, and then she'll
Mhm.
just push into that.
It's
And
called a massage.
yeah,
It's a massage.
hmm but
Sometimes
hers
it's
would probably be more of a shiatsu.
got it. Got it.
Yeah, and I could see that. Um,
Mhm.
and it was one of those things that when she told me that, I just kind of filed it away, like, huh, okay, that's interesting. I could see how that would be a thing. And I wasn't mad at him about it. And I wasn't mad at her about it. It was just like, that's something that happened that I didn't
Yeah.
realize. And it's interesting to know it now.
Mhm.
Um, but she could be that way. She could really, really just, um, and she could manipulate and things like that. And, uh, oh, there's so much. But in about 19, I was born in 1970, my brother the following
Mhm.
year, and then it was shortly after, like about a month after my fourth birthday is when my dad died in May. And
Okay.
so we're coming up on the 50th anniversary of that. I don't
Wow.
know if she still really remembers. She's 80 now, and
Mm.
she's starting to forget a lot of things.
Mhm.
And you know what? She wants peace now in her own way, and I want to let her have that. So I don't even bring
That's
things, old
awesome.
stuff up.
Oh,
I
that's
don't see the point. Yeah,
cool.
it's past.
Mhm.
So a couple of things happened with his death. Um, he, well, she obviously was devastated. She's here now.
Mhm.
She's got 3 children under the age of 10 to raise
Mhm.
by herself.
Mhm.
Um, we had just moved into a new home. She's not financially able to keep that. And so now we have
Mm.
to move. We'd only been there
Mhm.
for about a month or so.
Mhm.
And um, as we're moving into the new home, it's broken into by the son of the previous owners. They were divorcing. He was a teenager. He was angry about the divorce, and that's how he knew to lash out, was take it out on the new family.
Oh boy.
Um, and he has no idea what he did because that further devastated my already traumatized mom.
Mhm.
Um, and so her methods of coping with the stress was going back to the benzodiazepines, Valium in particular. And
Mhm.
I, I know there were many days where my brother and I would call my grandmother because my mom wasn't getting out of bed and her door was locked and we couldn't wake her up, and we needed to eat. And so we
Mhm.
would sneak and call my grandmother. She'd say, I'm not going to ring the doorbell. You guys wait by the front. I'm going to tap on the window and you guys let me in. And she would come in and she would make us some breakfast and, you know, check on us, make sure we were brushing our teeth and we were clean and everything. Mind you, we're like 4 and 5 years old here. And then she would tip away and go out and we'd close and lock the door. And um, I I'm sure at some point my mom would see things and suspect it. Somebody was coming in and doing things for us, but my grandmother was like, just, you know, don't tell your mom because it's just, our family had a lot of that. Don't tell so and so about this, and don't tell so and
That's
so
right.
about
Yeah.
that. And so,
Very compartmentalized, right?
yeah,
Little
definitely.
silos of information.
Hmm. And
Mm.
so, and that went on for probably about a year or so. And then
Hmm.
my grandmother moved from Phoenix, where we were, to Southern California in Riverside,
Hmm.
and which is about 40 miles northwest of Int Base.
Hmm. Okay.
For those that are familiar with Scientology, and
Hmm.
uh, she took um, my half sister with her. She was closest in age to our aunt, who she was only 3 years older than my half sister, and she's
Mm.
8 years older than me. So
Right.
she took the two of them because they were teenagers, and by this point, my mom had long term boyfriend named, I just call him Bob. Um,
All right.
and I was not a huge Bob fan, but there wasn't anything I could do about it. But you know, my grandmother just, she didn't like him, he didn't like her, and my grandmother especially didn't like the fact that he was older.
Hmm.
He was actually closer to her age than my mom's age.
Hmm.
And he had raised his children. His children were all adults. And he flat out said, I don't want any more children. And my grandmother was like, why are you in a relationship with my daughter with three young
Hmm.
kids? So I think she took him away because, you know, she also, my grandmother was very paranoid and suspicious about certain things. And I think she was concerned that he might start messing with us as
Right.
well. But
Yeah.
at the time, she just took my half sister and then later came back and got me and my brother.
Hmm.
And it was just kind of strange how that went down because she came, and I remember it being pretty late in the evening. Um,
Hmm.
and she went and she talked with my mom and Bob first. My brother and I were trying to listen in the door, and then we run back to our room and pretend like we were playing.
Hmm.
um,
So sneaky. I bet they
yeah.
didn't suspect a thing.
Oh, not a thing, I'm sure. And then they came and got us, and they said, you know, my mom said, your grandmother wants to take you to California to live with her. What do you think about that? At this point, we are like 7 and 6 years old. What
Hmm.
kind of decision is that to have to give to it to children? You can stay here or you can move to California. What do you want to do? Well, when you ask a 7-year old something like that, she turns to her younger brother and whispers, we'd be closer to Disneyland. Because that's all that I don't know what any of this means, but we
Oh
would be
yeah,
closer
exactly.
to Disneyland. And
Hmm.
that made perfect sense. Let's go. Um,
Hmm.
and so we did. I can't remember if we left. I remember my brother and I packing that night. I don't remember if we left that night or left in the morning. And I'm
Hmm.
sure Bob must have been happy as a clam. He's got what he wanted, my mom and no kids. Um,
Hmm.
so, but we were raised by her. And that's another thing that I'm not mad about because sometimes I think about where I would be and where my brother would be if we had remained um, under my mom's care at that time with her
Absolutely.
using substances, finding, looking anywhere, including Scientology, briefly,
Hmm.
to find out something to make her feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And she was lost, so how could she have guided us at
Yeah.
all?
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful to my grandmother. It's unfortunate and sad that it had to go that way, but I think my brother and I were safer for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so that only takes me up to the age of 8.
All right. Now that the ripe old age of 8, how did your life change moving in with grandma?
um, well, some big things were we went to school consistently. I had always pretty much gone to school. I liked school.
Mm-hmm.
My brother did not like going. He didn't like being away from my mom, and she didn't push it. So by the time we got to California, he was having to, he should have been in the second grade, and he was only in the first grade.
Mm.
So, and then he always just kind of had a hard time with school. And we found out later that he had ADHD, and
Mm-hmm.
we were in a school system. My grandmother actually didn't have us in public schools. She was Seventh Day Adventist, and so she raised us as such. And she worked very hard
Mm-hmm.
to keep us in the private school, the
Mm-hmm.
Adventist private school system. So they didn't. You would have thought that they would have had more for him there, but they didn't. They didn't accommodate in the 80s. I don't think they really thought ADHD was even a thing.
No, they were just bratty little kids, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what do
And
they know? They're just little.
one teacher told my grandmother to his face, he doesn't have any problems. He's just lazy.
And you're a bad parent, by the way.
Yeah,
Don't forget
yeah.
that.
You're doing
It's
this
all your
wrong.
fault. Exactly.
And there were so many factors into that went into that. It was very
Mm-hmm.
difficult to get diagnosed with ADHD if you were
Mm-hmm.
not a white boy. Period. White girls couldn't get diagnosed, and we're like, oh no, that's something that just happens with boys. And if you were of an other ethnicity, they didn't even look at you. And he
Because
and
it's
I were
all
both,
to do with your skin color. I mean, really,
yeah,
the higher the melanin, the worse
hmm,
behavior is supposed to be, right?
right. And here's the
Right.
thing, my behavior wasn't bad, but I had it too. I was just all over the classroom. I had
Yeah.
teachers that had the good sense to, we need to give her something else to do.
Oh.
In kindergarten, I would finish
Uh-huh.
whatever it was we were doing. And so she would say, why don't you come around and check on the other kids and see how they're doing? Help me. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I did that from kindergarten all through middle school.
Mm-hmm.
I would
Yep.
finish early and then wind up helping everybody else in the class. So,
So
and I
really,
didn't
you're a
mind that.
teacher, not a nurse, is what you're saying.
Well, right now I'm both because I'm teaching in healthcare now too. So, but
Perfect.
I guess that's always kind of been in me. And
Oh.
yeah, I didn't get diagnosed with my ADHD until I was 50. Was it
I
50?
was in my
No,
40s when I was diagnosed.
it was, I was 51. Yeah, because it was
Okay.
December of 2021. So,
Okay.
yeah. And realizing that I had gone through all through school with decent
Mm-hmm.
grades
Mm-hmm.
and went to college, studied journalism, and then I just walked away from that because I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore after the LA riots. That was wild. And then
Yeah.
going back to school as an adult learner
Mm-hmm.
and getting my RN, well, my LVN
Mm-hmm.
and then my RN, complete, still undiagnosed, struggling somewhat, but getting it done. And I'm like, when I finally got diagnosed, I was like, what? How did no one ever pick this up? I don't understand.
I don't think they even started looking for it
Hmm.
until the 2000s, 2010s.
Yeah.
Honestly, in not the white boy population.
Hmm.
And then at that time as well, they were also overdiagnosing it. Any little
Yeah.
boy who had any sort of energy, obviously
Hmm.
he needed to be on Ritalin, right? So
Right.
medicate him and get it over with, and then just everybody will be even Steven, and
Hmm.
nobody wants to be flat affect. I mean, really,
Right.
that's
Hmm.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Ritalin, it was Vyvanse is what my doctor put me on at
Mm-hmm.
first. And oh, funny story about my testing. Uh, they say, don't take any of your medications the morning of, and I forgot and I took them anyway. It was also the first
Mm-hmm.
day of a new job,
Oh no.
and I just was on autopilot getting ready, and I forgot and I took my meds, and one of them is Wellbutrin, which is often used as a non-stimulant medication for ADHD, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
at the max dose. I took that
Mm-hmm.
this morning, that morning, went to the testing that evening, and still tested positive.
Yeah.
So they were like, "You're definitely." And she told me before she had even printed out the report. She said, "I can already tell you're ADHD. You kept asking me about my tattoos and the printer and everything else in the room, and there was like literally nothing in the room. It was the
Yeah.
two computers, her
Yeah.
desk, a printer over on top of a file cabinet that wasn't working, and
Yeah.
the tattoos on her arm, and that was enough to
Oh yeah.
distract me from what I was supposed to be
Absolutely.
doing."
When I was diagnosed, it was there was a questionnaire that my mom, my husband, and myself, we each had to
Mhm.
fill out our version of exactly the same questions. And because it was during
Yeah.
COVID, it was 2020 when I was diagnosed.
Hmm.
And because it was during COVID, we couldn't all be in the same area even to do it. So we had to do this on a three-way phone call. That
Hmm.
was painful. What
Oh.
was worse is because of my family dynamic, my mom could remember almost nothing of my childhood. So
Oh.
all of these, like what was she like as a child in
Hmm.
school and so on and so forth,
Yeah.
my mom couldn't tell her. So,
Oh.
and then she kept on saying, she doesn't have to be positive for every one of these things. It's
Hmm.
just, I'm like, no, it's just who I am.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Real quick, I just want to say hi, Brian, and hi, Mary. I'm glad you guys are here.
Hello.
Yeah, so that was wild. But yeah, going back, my grandmother made sure that we were in school, that we were
Mm-hmm.
at the best school she could afford to get us into.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked hard. She was an LPN, which is a licensed practical nurse in California.
Mm-hmm.
They're called licensed vocational nurses.
Okay.
And she did come to when she came to California. She did get her license. She had to sit for the board the second time, and back then it was pen and paper, and I can't imagine what kind of nightmare it would be sitting in that room for 6 hours taking that test. It
Mm-hmm.
was hard enough on computer. But
Absolutely.
she always worked, and she was in her 50s when she got her LPN in
Oh
Phoenix,
wow.
and so she knew that she was going to be working for a while. When she came to California, she didn't do work in hospitals. She did private duty nursing, um,
Mm.
which um, it helped keep us afloat. Money was tight
Mm-hmm.
often,
Yeah.
but you know she did her best, and
Yeah.
I will always appreciate and cherish her for that. She
That's
wasn't
wonderful.
perfect. She was not perfect, and I don't know if she was ever diagnosed, but I suspect, just from things when I look back at some of her behaviors, that she probably had some form of bipolar disorder, um, because she would have ups and downs, and the downs, it was, she could just manage the bare minimum of getting us up and out of the house to school. um, I would notice that we would be taking turns preparing meals more when she was down. Um, and then when she was up, she was doing everything: meals, hair. All of, it's our on Saturday mornings, the kitchen would become a beauty shop, because it was my aunt
Mm-hmm.
and my older sister and I that all needed to get our hair. We were all straightening our hair and things like that, and getting our ears burned with the hot comb and
Ouch.
um,
I'm feeling it in your
yeah, no,
stead here.
actually, when I said it,
Ouch.
my ears started itching. So,
It's amazing those
and
visceral memories.
exactly. And she would have, had made us new dresses the night before or something. And we're just like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
wow. And, she could just go, go, go. I remember coming home from school one day and she had made and already hung brand new curtains and was working on reupholstering the furniture. And I'm like, wow.
Wow.
hmm And
Yeah. We don't
yeah,
need new
she,
furniture. Grandma's just manic.
ex- yeah, but
Yeah.
and she did a wonderful job. When
Excellent.
I would tell people that she had upholstered it herself, they would look, what? They were amazed.
Yeah.
Um, but and she could be a lot of fun. She was a Sagittarius. I think because sometimes she would say, sometimes I wish I could just get in the car and go away and never come back. That was very
Mm.
Sagittarius.
Mm-hmm.
Slash probably bipolar. Um,
Yeah.
but she did like to get out and have fun. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of her favorite places was the Hollywood Bowl
Mm.
in Los Angeles, where it's an open air auditorium, and it's like a dome, and
Mm-hmm.
the sound there is just absolutely phenomenal.
Wow.
And she loved to go there to see. I think we actually saw the Boston Pops there,
Mm-hmm.
and they were doing Star Wars music. And she knew that my brother and I would be interested because we loved all of that.
Right.
And she just loved listening to classical style music. So
Mm-hmm.
I just that was a great day. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then we would go to other places locally. We did a lot of stuff that was free just because money was tight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's a lot of the good that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was other stuff. Um, so two of my her two brothers.
Mm-hmm.
She was the oldest. She had two brothers, and then my aunt was the surprise. And so one of them was when they were in high school, they both kind of got into using drugs. One of them, my uncle Mark, he was just angry all the time.
Mm.
But it turned out that my uncle Kenneth was actually self-medicating. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when it actually presented itself, um, but by the time I was about 5, he had been diagnosed with schizophrenia.
How old was he at the time? Do you know?
Let's see, he probably would have been in his late 20s, I think.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
And so my Mark would be kind of on and off. He was mostly just using marijuana though, and
Mm-hmm.
it was Kenneth that got into other heavier stuff. My
Mm-hmm.
grandmother always said that it was the drugs that caused the schizophrenia, but we know more about healthcare now and mental illnesses, and more than likely it was there, and he was trying to quiet his brain. So,
What I understand of mental illnesses, and this, please correct me if I'm wrong because I 100% could be, but for most, not all mental illnesses, there's usually a biological predisposition
mhm,
and then it has to be triggered.
yeah,
So is it possible that the drugs triggered what was already there, do you think?
that is possible too. Yeah, that's
Okay.
possible because my grandmother had a younger brother who I'm pretty sure, from what she described, I think he also had, if not schizophrenia, some other similar mental
Psychotic,
illness. Yeah, he ran
psychotic
away from
illness.
home and, going from being raised on a farm in Northwest Texas
Hmm.
to running off to Los Angeles to go find
Wow.
himself. And this would have been in the 30s. He didn't last. He was found
No.
dead. My great grandmother got a letter from the city of Los Angeles saying that they,
Oops. And that was, there we go. Hello, Pamela. Okay, Pamela, I
okay,
can't hear you right now. There we go.
hang on, I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear it now? I
Oh no,
I'm talking. Can you hear me at all?
I don't know. I still can't hear you. What's going on?
Okay. So there's
Um,
something going on,
let me
probably with Pamela's
check my
iPad.
setting here. I got a call.
Oh, she got a call. Okay. That happens. That'll mess up everything every time. So,
Yeah, I can't
okay.
hear you at all. I don't know what happened. I'm going to go out and come back in.
Perfect.
I'll be
Sounds
right
great.
back.
Okay. So, since I do have a moment, I will tell you a little bit about my own personal history. Um, my family consists of a lot of people with alcoholism, and many times, rather than say drugs, alcoholism, all of that is a lot of self medicating. So, my dad had bipolar type 1, I have bipolar type 2. My daughters each have a mental illness. They know about it now. They don't have nearly the same types of problems I did at their age. So, I'm really looking forward to Pamela continuing.
There we go.
And can you hear us now?
Yes.
Awesome.
That was weird. Something I said, oh, don't forget to put it in do not disturb. And then I forgot. And yeah, a call came
Hmm.
in and just
Okay.
discombobulated everything. Okay. What was
Yes.
I saying?
You had a
Um,
letter, or they got a letter from the city of Los Angeles.
yeah, saying that he was found dead on a street and had been cremated. And, where do you want us to send his remains?
Hmm. Wow. That's
Yeah,
harsh.
very.
Yeah.
But that's how it was. And people don't realize,
Hmm.
like, oh, well, Los Angeles, they were accepting. No, in the 20s and 30s, LA was just as bad with racism as everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And see, he didn't matter. I don't even think they told her. I don't think my grandmother knew what the cause of death even was.
Mm. See, even now, doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. If you're rich, it's called eccentric. If you're
Hmm.
poor, it's called crazy.
Crazy, yeah,
You
yeah.
know? Yeah.
And the
How you
crazy thing
doing?
is, when we take off our skin, we all look exactly the same.
Right. You and I are so similar. I can feel it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking at some
Actually,
of your posts earlier on Facebook, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah.
I have been told by my husband that I need to share less. He's an engineer and he wants just kind of a quiet, calm life. I
Hmm.
painted this. Does this look
Oh
quiet and calm to
wow,
you?
not a
You know,
not a one bit, and I love
not even a little.
it.
Um, but then I've had hundreds of people tell me they want me to continue to post because, like, sometimes it's the best part of their day is watching the
Hmm.
funny things that I post.
Yeah,
And it's not that I am that amazing. It's just I am that ADHD, and it's like
yeah, exactly.
this.
Oh
You
yeah.
know.
No, I
So
don't know if
yeah,
you've
if
seen
my
me in the
illness
middle
can
of the
help
night.
somebody else, yep,
Yeah, sometimes in the middle of the
absolutely.
night, I just start rapid firing memes, and everybody's like, "Stop!"
Turn off your sound, you'll be fine. Yeah. Sorry, I kind of derailed us there.
That's okay.
All right.
Um, but yeah, it is quite possible that the drugs just kind of activated something that was already going on. So,
Mm-hmm.
for my uncle Kenneth,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of had a, I don't. it just popped into my head. I remember having a vague feeling or sense that part of the reason why she took, because when she moved from Phoenix to California, she took my uncles with her as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why I have this vague sense that part of that was for legal reasons to get him out of some trouble. And I
Mm.
think she thought if I take him over here, he won't be around the people he was doing drugs with anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Not
They get
understanding
them
that he
away
would
from the
just find,
troubled stuff.
yeah, he would just find new people, which is what he did.
Exactly.
So, um, so that was also a dynamic that my brother and I grew up with. Mark at one point moved and went to Illinois to live with his father, my grandfather. My grandparents were split, but not necessarily divorced. That's a fun story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, they and yeah, my grandfather was back in Illinois working for Chrysler, and my uncle Mark went back to live with him for a while. But
Mm-hmm.
Kenneth was just, by the time he got to the last job he had held down had been in Phoenix, and so I she found a doctor that and convinced him to, or convinced the doctor to sign disability paperwork for Uncle Ken so that he would have something coming in.
Right. Yeah.
And then it was just kind of a struggle because she was trying to get him onto medication and he wouldn't take it, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And I don't specifically anymore remember a lot of his behaviors early on when we first moved
Mm-hmm.
there. But there had to have been something because I have this image in my head of us all meeting with a family therapist, and he's
Mm-hmm.
trying to do group, you know, talk therapy among the family, and we're going
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
and saying, you know, and so they get to me and it's like, what would you like to say to Kenneth? The way you act sometimes scares me. And the
Yeah.
therapist goes to Kenneth and says, what do you think about that? Do you hear what she's saying? And he just kind of said, well, I hear that sometimes I scare her. And how does that make you
Very
feel?
1980s right there.
Yeah. And he's
1980s
like,
therapy. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. You know, and I'm just like, okay, but it's going to happen again when we get home, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
because, yeah, his behavior was just, it was erratic. And
Yeah.
I think at that point he was no longer hiding the fact that he
Mm-hmm.
was having visual and auditory hallucinations. So he would just
Mm-hmm.
walk around the house just cursing at someone or something that no one else could see or hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to an 8-year-old's brain doesn't know what to do with that. I had no idea what that was, what was going on. And there's never really got an explanation, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just something we lived with. And it didn't occur to me until I got to high school that, not everybody has a family member in the house that's walking around talking to themselves and
Mm-hmm.
breaking the toilet because he saw something evil coming out of it, and
Yep.
washing his body with Ajax and scalding hot water to try to
Ooh.
cleanse off something from his body that no one else can
Yep.
see or feel.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and what that did to me, and I think my brother to a degree, is there were only like a couple certain friends that we would have over ever.
Mm-hmm.
They were the only ones that we felt comfortable telling about what was
Absolutely.
really going on, and they were the only people that came to the house. And so that, you know, there were no birthday parties, there were no sleepovers,
Mm.
unless we were going to somebody else's house, but we didn't even
Right.
really do that.
Right.
And I it makes a kid feel isolated and lonely.
Very, for
So a lot
sure.
of times, my brother and I, we just felt like we just had each other, and just
Hmm.
being we're 16 months apart. So we a lot of people treated us like we were twins anyway, but we were just always together. And we would sometimes play with some other kids in our neighborhood, but for the most part, it was just me and him in the backyard, or playing with
Yeah.
our Star Wars figurines, and pretending they were in Tatooine in this, patch that didn't have any grass or something. And
Yep. The bald part of
yeah, the
that.
bald part,
Yes,
yeah.
the bald part.
And we had a good time. And we have a lot of good memories. Again, that's an area where some of my memories seem to be missing, but my bro I have like a sense of how things were,
Hmm.
whereas my brother still retains specific memories about things. And a lot of times he'll say to me, "How do you not remember that?" And I'm just like, "I don't know, but I'm working on it."
Part of it as well is people react differently to different traumas.
Yeah.
And for some people, skipping over a memory is how your body protects you from whatever that trauma was. And
Hmm.
even if it's sometimes the smallest thing, like you saw a mouse get trapped in a mouse trap,
Hmm.
that may have been just that little bit too much for your
Yeah.
brain,
Hmm.
and I don't know if that's kind of everything, but I
Hmm.
know at least there's a lot of people I've met who have been like that.
Yeah. And I sense that that is probably a big part of it, because
Hmm.
see, I grew up not even suspecting that I was suffering from childhood trauma.
Hmm.
Because, like I said, your normal, my normal was my normal. I had no idea my normal was not normal.
Right.
And my brain probably did say, okay, we're going to file this way back there
Hmm.
and avoid touching it if we have to. But if we have to, it's there and we can go and dig and
Stick.
find the box. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and slowly, as I'm more in therapy now as an adult, some things are kind of, I'll be talking with my therapist and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I just
Hmm.
found this box back here that might
What's in this
explain
box?
something.
Ooh, look, shiny object. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's I have probably buried and I can't say that
Repressed.
word. Com Anyway,
Compartmentalized.
yes, that.
Okay.
Like, I don't even know. I see a bunch of letters and I can't get them out of my head,
I hear
through my
you.
mouth. Um, Compartmentalized. Yeah, I think I have done that with a lot of things, and it's probably what's allowed me to mimic a normal, healthy person.
Hmm.
So,
I'm just
so
going to
many people
comment a
say,
little bit.
hmm.
I'm just going to comment a little bit about what I'm seeing in the chat.
Hmm.
There's a few people discussing whether or not it is simply hormonal, if it is potassium levels, if it's your thyroid or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, for myself, I'm just going to explain how my mental health has been diagnosed and treated.
Hmm.
Before I was ever diagnosed with a mental health, like a brain mental health disorder, I was
Hmm.
tested for everything under the sun, all of my hormone levels, all of my everything endocrine, yada, yada, yada.
Hmm.
Made sure that my brain itself was healthy, did ECGs, EKGs, and all of the other Gs that are possible.
Yeah.
And then after that, did they go
Hmm.
in and look at possibilities of mental health issues?
Okay.
And that's how it is continued to be. It's like, okay, yeah, my
Hmm.
my thyroid was off a couple of months ago, and things were going through my head that were deeply unusual for me.
Hmm.
But then we went, got my thyroid tested. Yep, my thyroid was off, so we changed that, and then yep, back to my typical, right.
Yeah.
So you're right. hormones can mimic mental
Mhm.
illnesses.
Yeah.
I would not say that they're the cause, but they can definitely mimic them.
Hmm. When my grandmother went through menopause, my aunt would always say, "There, it's like we have two moms," because she would 1 second be screaming at everybody,
Mhm.
and the phone would ring, and she'd be like, "Hello," just instantly.
Hi, how you doing, darling? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, too funny. And I know
Mhm.
I was tested by my I had a wonderful doctor
Mhm.
when I was in my 20s, and she tested me for everything. What
Mhm.
was going on was I was experiencing, I wasn't even paying any attention to what was going on in my head. I just knew
Mm.
that from the base of my skull
Mhm.
to the middle of my back, I was in
Mhm.
excruciating pain. I would go to
Mm.
work, and in order to function, I would have icy hot patches, like
Mm.
4 of
Wow.
them on my back. And I had to do that just to sit up straight at my desk. And this was when I was working at the courts. And I finally made an appointment to go see my doctor. And I'm
Mhm.
describing all of my symptoms, and she's observing. And she was very empathic. I loved her. And
Mhm.
after I finished describing what's going on with me, because I'm just focused on the physical pain,
Yeah.
she leans forward and she says, "Are you depressed?" And I just lost it.
Yeah.
I just completely came to pieces. So, but she was wonderful about it. She went ahead and she prescribed an antidepressant, referred me to psychiatry, and then she did a whole bunch of lab tests. My thyroid
Yeah.
was fine.
Yeah.
My electrolytes were fine. Everything else seemed
Mhm.
fine. I do tend to be a little anemic, um, have been my whole life.
Mhm.
But I don't even remember her bringing up the anemia at that time.
Mm.
And so, in terms of my endocrine system, it wasn't that. And so, it definitely
Right.
had to be something going on here. And
Yeah.
why not?
Well,
I had a
people are
few
scared of,
reasons.
yeah, well, people are scared of mental illness, and it's because you can't generally, you can now on certain brain scans, you can see what somebody with schizophrenia, what their brain
Mhm.
looks like compared to somebody who doesn't have schizophrenia.
Right.
You can now see on an fMRI the place in somebody's brain where they've had a PTSD injury. So
Hmm.
then they have PTSD and that.
Yeah.
But most mental illnesses are simply a chemical just imbalance in the brain.
Hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
what scares people because you can't measure it. You can't see it except
Hmm.
for self reporting how
Yeah.
things are going,
Hmm.
right?
And I worry when I hear people say, "Well, I asked the doctor and he put me on this medication and I don't feel like it helps, so I stopped taking it." So much of it is trial and error,
Absolutely.
unfortunately.
Yep.
And I think I went through at least 4 SSRIs before we found the right one, and then that one wound up
Hmm.
being discontinued.
Oh
So
no. Huzzah.
I was a victim of Paxil. So,
Oh,
yeah, because it worked very well for me. And then they discovered there was some issues with manufacturing. They had to pull the long acting off the market. The
yep.
one that you had to take twice a day did not work for me, as well as the long acting, and then we had to move on to something else. But
Mm.
you have to stick with it. You have to communicate with your doctor about what you're
Hmm.
feeling, and you have to be honest with them about it,
Hmm.
because that's the only way they can say, okay, we need to
Absolutely.
adjust this, or maybe we need to switch to something else, or maybe we can keep this but add something else. There are so many different ways. It's not always going to be a one pill solution. I am on 3.
I'm on 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
for my mental illnesses. And I say illnesses because I have a lovely alphabet for my name, and none of it has anything to do with PhD. And then I've got a number of different ones then for cholesterol, diabetes, and the other things that happen in the body with different disorders.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm on, I think, 14 plus
Oh.
insulin meds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a thing that happens. Some people just need one pill.
Right.
I have a friend who just needs the one. And
God
I
bless
don't
her.
ever say that she has less of an illness than I do,
Right.
just because I have different symptoms that
Right.
have to be treated
And
with
they have
different
to be
medications.
attacked from
Has to
different
be in
angles.
concert. Yeah.
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 So, yeah. So far, just 3, and one of them is to help me sleep. But so far, I've been on this particular combination since the beginning of the year, and it seems to be really, really working well. Because like having a conversation like this with anyone, where anybody else could see and listen and comment on it, this would not have happened in January.
No.
I would
Yeah.
never even, I wouldn't have even thought of having a YouTube channel myself
Right.
then. And still trying to figure out how I got here. But we'll just thank DOA.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Caught me the right way one night in February. So here we
Perfect.
are.
I'm sorry. What's your I just bit my tongue.
Ouch.
I feel so much better now.
Oh no.
So, what's your channel called?
It's at Dawn Gloves, or Dawn Gloves RNSP. The SPs are not official credentials given by the government, but
Right. But it's proudly who you are.
but it
You
is
are that
proudly who
suppressive
I
person.
am. I'll just walk
Yes.
up and like, hi, and I'm an SP, and I'm here to take you down.
I like it. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
That's a whole
totally
other
derailed
topic.
there, like
Yeah, we did.
completely off.
But yeah,
Your
on the
uncle Kenneth
mhm,
and how he was interacting with your family, how
mhm.
it affected you. How long did you all live in the same house?
Um, there were times when my grandmother would she would rent him an apartment
Mm-hmm.
away, but that's an extra expense in addition to the mortgage that we had. She would try to
Mm-hmm.
just to get him out of the house, especially when my aunt was in high school, because as his youngest sister, she had a really, really hard time. She didn't understand the mental illness at all. Um, I think because of him, I became more interested in mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried to understand to the degree that I could as a child. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, when I first went to college, I had started out as a psychology major.
Mm.
And that happens a lot. Often people who have their own mental illness, or they are living with someone with mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
head in that direction. And um, a friend and I had volunteered on a chat line at it was a local Christian radio station. And
Mm-hmm.
one Friday night was rough, where I'm trying to talk to this woman live on the air. And then I think we eventually had them put on some music, and I continued to talk to her while my friend was calling law enforcement to do a wellness check on her.
Good.
And we stayed on the phone with her until we heard the police knock on the door, and we knew she was going to be
Yeah.
safe. And
I'm
we
just
were
going to put
both
up a ticker here.
wrecked. Okay, thank you.
988 is suicide prevention hotline all over North America.
Yes.
In Canada, I don't know what there is in the US, but in Canada, 800-668-6868 is the kids' help phone.
Yeah.
And if you just want to text 6868, you can
Mm-hmm.
text the kids' help phone.
That's
And like you
wonderful.
were saying, as a family member of, or if you yourself have a mental illness, frequently that's why people go into, or that's who goes into that type of work. My
Mhm.
my older daughter
Mhm.
has now graduated with a Bachelor of Psych,
Awesome.
and she is one of the people on the Kids Help phone
Oh,
if
that
you
is
choose to call them.
fantastic.
Yeah, she knew how hard it was for me to get somebody,
Mhm.
and so she wants to work with adults. She wants to be able to diagnose and give the best care possible because too many
Mhm.
times somebody with complex issues, schizophrenia, bipolar, people with comorbidities, so a number of
Yeah.
different diagnoses all at the same time, they need special help, and that's who she
Mhm.
wants to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So if you do have a problem, if you are feeling suicidal and you are not yet at the place where you need intervention by the police, 988 is where you want to go. Okay.
Yeah.
That is
And they're
super important to
trained
know.
professionals and they will guide you.
Yeah,
They're going to listen to you. And then they're going
absolutely.
to try to find out what it is that you need and what you want to be done. And they're going to guide you towards that.
And not only that, if it happens that your condition does deteriorate, they will call law enforcement for you if need be, but only if
Hmm.
need be. They don't want to just send
Yes.
people to your door to scare you, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
So, yeah, this is mental health is so, so important.
it is.
Kind of
It,
my
mental
drum that
health
I
care
beat.
is health care.
It is. Okay, you and I
Without
need
our
to partner a whole
brains.
lot more often
Oh,
here.
yeah, yeah,
Just
definitely. No, because we will go to the doctor for every single organ
Mhm.
in our body except our own brain.
Yep, absolutely.
And we've got to stop it.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, coming to term, where were we? We moved from trauma to when I was first
Sorry.
diagnosed with depression.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your grandma trying to get your uncle his own a place,
Oh, yeah.
and yes.
Um, because it was too much for my aunt when she was trying
Hmm.
to finish high school. And so
Hmm.
she had rented this house for him, and it was a cute little house. I liked actually going over there to visit. And uh, one one night he was sitting in a chair smoking, and he wasn't supposed to smoke inside the house. Um, and he had always, since he moved in, kind of been at odds with the landlord there because the man kept insisting on being around and checking up on things like unannounced while my uncle
Kind of
was
like a
there.
babysitter.
Yeah, and my uncle was like the last person you want to pop in on unannounced.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think we even called and said we were coming, we were
Hmm.
going over to see him.
Hmm.
So they were already not friends, and I think the man was looking for a reason to get him out.
Yeah.
And my uncle gave him one. He fell asleep in a chair next to the curtains in the living room with a cigarette, and he's luckily he didn't go up in flames, so he woke up,
Yeah.
and but the curtains went up. They were able to get the fire out quickly. The only damage was to the front there around the front windows. But this man had my uncle prosecuted for arson. We
Hmm.
know it wasn't arson.
No.
He
No.
knew
No.
it
No. No.
wasn't
No.
arson. I think the
Exactly.
judge knew
Yep.
it wasn't arson. But and I'm not sure how it came to down to my uncle being sentenced with anything. I don't know, but I know my grandmother. I remember the day she went to court, and she cried and begged and pleaded with the judge to not send him to jail or prison, but to send him to a hospital. And so
And did they?
they did. So in Southern California, we have Patton State Mental Hospital, which is for the mentally ill who have committed crimes,
Right.
so that they can get treatment. And it's actually run very well now. I don't know how it was then. This would have been the late 80s,
Mm. Hmm.
early 90s. Yeah, because he was still there when she got married, when my aunt got married. Um,
Okay.
but see, trying to think. He was there for a long time. So that would have been probably middle school for me, which would have been
Hmm.
1980, 84.
Okay.
And then he didn't get out until she got married, which was in 1990, I think. 89 or 90 is when she got married. And he
Okay.
was out in time for the wedding.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was
How
a
was he
pretty
feeling?
long. He was really quiet,
Okay.
and I still wasn't about taking his meds or anything like that. And but he was quieter. And so yeah, that was probably a good, what is that? Almost 10 years
Mm-hmm.
that he was away from the house. So I did kind of start to feel some sense of normalcy,
Okay.
but it was when I was in college the first time is when he came home. And so then it was back to, no, let's not do that at my house. Let's study at yours.
Yeah.
Things like that. In fact, at one point, even though it was only 3 miles from home, I lived in the dormitory at the university. So just because
Mm-hmm.
it was an easier way for me to have some peace.
Privacy, peace, independence,
Mm-hmm.
all of
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Unfortunately,
So
there's also a price tag.
price tag and people. I went
Yeah.
from a house with one mentally ill person to wow.
Party.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was something else. But I loved my uncle. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a snazzy dresser.
Mm-hmm.
My brother and I would just sit and when we were all still in Phoenix and watch him getting ready to go out. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember one day, but he was all about everything's wide collars. He would have it buttoned to a reasonable
Not down
button,
to here, but
not all the way down. Yeah, it'd be about
yeah.
here, just enough to show off his chains. He wore rings. He was just always a nice watch, very
Styling.
snazzy dresser. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then picking that fro from infinity to beyond would be so big. We're like, wow, how does he do that? And
It's hairspray.
yeah, and I do remember one time my brother and I are sitting there, and he puts his belt on and makes sure it's fastened. He's checking the fit. His shirt's tucked in, and then he
Mm-hmm.
opens a drawer and he takes out a revolver, checks the barrel, closes it, tucks it in the back of his pants, and then puts on a jacket. And I, being mean, I say, Uncle Ken, where are you going with that? And he says, I'm going to see my doctor. And I said, well, what is that for? And he said, that's in case I don't get what I want. That wasn't his doctor. He was
Wow.
going to see a dealer.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Doctor.
that
Got it.
doctor. Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that does not compete. And I'm like, literally, I'm 6 or 7. That doesn't make any sense. When I go to the
Yeah.
doctor, I get a shot and a lollipop. I don't know why you would need to take a gun to get a lollipop.
Because they didn't have cherry.
I guess.
They only
So,
had the
yeah.
yucky yellow ones. Yeah.
hmm And it's just, things like that that
Yeah.
are stored away in there that I
Yeah.
might not actively be thinking about, but those all contributed to shaping me. So,
Mm-hmm. Well,
uh,
this has been what shaped you. We
mhm.
will continue next time with what grew you, how you grew as a young woman. And so we've talked about a family history of mental illness. And then other people now have surrounded you once you're in college and continuing on. So we'll talk about that next time. How does that sound?
That sounds good.
Good. Okay. Is there anything else that you want people to know that we have not yet talked about for today?
Oh, I don't like spoilers. No
All
spoilers.
right. No spoilers. Do you watch Doctor Who?
I used to. I
River
haven't
Song?
watched.
Spoilers.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love Riverside.
I know, right? Okay, you and I are the same person in different
I think
countries and
so.
different bodies.
Yeah,
Pretty
just
sure.
one time zone apart. Yeah.
Just one time zone apart.
I
All
love it.
right. All right. So I will see you all again. Thank you everybody for sticking around,
Yes,
chatting.
thank you.
I this I kind of keep an eye on the chat, but um perhaps next time or the time after, we will have people specifically ask questions
Sounds good.
because there will be information that you have that I have, and sometimes that people in the chat have to give to each other about
Mhm.
a wide variety of
Yeah.
topics.
Mhm.
So, all right. Thank you for being here, everybody. And we'll see you on Thursday evening. We're going to talk with Mary
Mhm.
of Blessed to Crochet, and she's going to talk about caregiving with multiple sclerosis. So that's what we'll be doing then. And I will see y'all later.
I'm going to weigh in
Bye.
on that too because I know a thing or two about caregiving as well.
You do. And I have an aunt with MS. So,
Mhm.
yeah, we can all have a good chat. All
Yeah.
righty.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.